Welcome to my channel, gentlemen. The world only recognizes what it understands, and what it doesn't, it tends to judge. If you've ever felt like an outsider, misunderstood for your silence, or criticized for not fitting society's mold, you might just be a Sigma. The world often labels what it cannot control, and for Sigmas, this results in unfair judgments and misinterpretations. People might view you as distant, rebellious, or even arrogant, but that's because they fail to grasp the deeper truth behind your actions. Sigmas operate differently. You value independence, think deeply, and refuse to live by anyone else's rules. Such a mindset is rare, and anything rare is often misunderstood. But being misunderstood doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're unique. This video will explore how the world views and judges Sigmas, not to criticize, but to remind you why you are built the way you are. So, stay with us until the end to discover what truly sets you apart. This is your reminder to stay true to yourself and embrace your Sigma strength. Let's dive in, gents. ####1. Suspected due to unfiltered honesty. Sigmas are often met with suspicion because of their blunt, unfiltered honesty. In a world filled with pleasantries and social niceties, their straightforward nature can be jarring. While most people soften their words to avoid conflict or discomfort, Sigmas speak the truth, no sugarcoating. This directness can make others uneasy, particularly those accustomed to navigating the world through polite half-truths or avoidance of difficult conversations. To the outside world, this honesty feels like a threat to the status quo. People are uncomfortable when faced with the truth, especially when it challenges the lies they tell themselves or others. Sigmas don't engage in these social games. They see dishonesty as a barrier to meaningful connection. For them, honesty is more than a virtue, it's essential. By being direct, they cut through superficiality, creating room for genuine communication. While this may make them seem abrasive or disruptive, it's an antidote to the falsehoods and shallow interactions that dominate society. For Sigmas, honesty isn't about being harsh. It's about promoting real, meaningful change. ####2. Perceived as unapproachable. Sigmas are often seen as unapproachable because they don't conform to social norms or engage in the casual small talk that many rely on to break the ice. Their presence is intense and purpose-driven, which can make others uncomfortable, especially those used to lighter, surface-level conversations. To some, this might appear as standoffishness, but Sigmas are simply selective about where they invest their time and energy. They don't waste time on superficial pleasantries, preferring conversations that have depth and meaning. Their focus is on what truly matters to them, making them seem aloof to those who expect traditional social interactions. However, Sigmas are not unapproachable. They just don't conform to the norms of small talk. They engage with those who share their values or can offer something substantial. They are open and loyal to those who take the time to understand them. ####3. Labeled as cold. Sigmas are often labeled as cold or emotionally distant, but this stems from a misunderstanding of how they handle their emotions. While the world expects people to openly express their feelings, Sigmas operate differently. Their emotions run deep, but they don't feel the need to put them on display for everyone to see. For Sigmas, emotions are personal, shared only with those who have earned their trust. To others, this can seem like a lack of warmth or compassion. When Sigmas choose not to wear their emotions on their sleeves, it can be misconstrued as indifference. But the truth is, Sigmas protect their emotional energy, reserving it for those who truly matter. What some interpret as coldness is actually a careful decision to safeguard their inner world. ####4. Judged for refusing to compromise. Sigmas are often judged for their refusal to compromise on their values. Many see this as stubbornness, but for Sigmas, integrity is non-negotiable. They don't bend to societal pressures or adjust their beliefs to gain approval. In a world that encourages conformity, Sigmas stand firm in their truth, even if it means standing alone. This commitment can be misunderstood as inflexibility, but for Sigmas, compromising their values isn't an option. Their integrity is what gives them strength, allowing them to navigate life's challenges while staying true to themselves. Approval from others is secondary to personal authenticity, and they would rather face judgment than sacrifice their principles. Hashtag 5. Labeled as intellectual snobs. Sigmas are often branded as intellectual snobs, but this couldn't be further from the truth. They're not dismissive or condescending. They simply have no patience for shallow thinking. For Sigmas, conversations are opportunities to explore ideas and challenge perceptions, not just fill silence. This depth can intimidate those who prefer to stay on the surface, leading to unfair judgments. When Sigmas engage, they bring their full focus. They aren't interested in small talk or fluff because it doesn't offer them any value. Their drive for meaningful discussions can make others feel exposed or unprepared. However, Sigmas are not trying to belittle anyone. They just crave conversations that push boundaries and uncover deeper truths. Thank you for being part of the Gentleman's Grove community. You are valued. They don't feel inferior, nor is their refusal to settle for the superficial about superiority. It stems from genuine curiosity. They're deeply intrigued by the complexity of ideas, systems, and individuals, and they love unraveling layers to grasp the deeper meaning behind things. In a world where convenience often trumps critical thinking, this trait can sometimes be perceived as excessive or unnecessary. This misinterpretation arises from projection. Many assume that because Sigmas think deeply, they must also judge harshly. But in reality, they're typically too engrossed in the idea itself to focus on the ego of the person presenting it. They aren't trying to dominate intellectual discussions. They're simply exploring ideas that pique their interest. Unfortunately, their intensity can sometimes make others feel out of their depth, leading to accusations of snobbery when, in fact, Sigmas are just passionately invested in what matters to them. Hashtag 6. Perfectionists never satisfied? Sigmas are often labeled as perfectionists who are never content, but this view misunderstands their relentless drive for self-improvement. To outsiders, their constant striving may seem exhausting or obsessive, as though nothing is ever good enough. But their pursuit of excellence isn't driven by dissatisfaction. It's a personal challenge they set for themselves. It has little to do with judging others. For a Sigma, self-improvement is a way of life. They don't compete with others, they compete with who they were yesterday. This internal motivation isn't about proving anything or seeking recognition. It's about growth, evolution, and realizing their full potential. They hold themselves to high standards, not because they're chasing an impossible ideal, but because they believe in doing things with purpose and excellence. This mindset is often misunderstood, though. People may view their refusal to settle or their constant refinement of ideas as signs of dissatisfaction. Some might even take it personally, assuming the Sigma's high standards are a judgment of their own choices. In truth, Sigmas rarely project their ambitions onto others. Their focus is inward, and their pursuit of growth is a deeply personal journey. What people often miss is the fulfillment that Sigmas derive from this process. It's not about identifying flaws. It's about discovering opportunities. To a Sigma, stagnation is the real enemy, and their relentless drive for improvement is how they avoid it. It's not that they're never satisfied. It's that they recognize there's always room to grow. While admirable, this mindset can sometimes make them seem impossible to please, but it's really a reflection of their dedication to living life on their terms, constantly striving to become their best selves. Hashtag 7. Unwilling to commit? Sigmas are often unfairly branded as commitment-phobic, particularly in relationships. The truth isn't that they fear commitment. It's that they refuse to settle for anything that feels forced, shallow, or inauthentic. While society tends to view relationships through conventional timelines and expectations, Sigmas approach them with deliberate intention. They don't rush into commitments just because it's expected or looks good on paper. This thoughtful approach can sometimes confuse or frustrate others. Those who equate love with speed or conformity to social norms may interpret a Sigma's hesitation as avoidance, but hesitation isn't the same as fear. Sigmas seek connections that align with their values, not fleeting arrangements dictated by societal pressures. Their reluctance to commit to just anyone stems from their high standards, not emotional detachment or indecision. They thrive on authenticity, which extends to their relationships. They don't romanticize the idea of settling down just to check a box. They look for depth, understanding, and mutual respect. For them, commitment isn't about obligation or ownership. It's about shared purpose and genuine connection. This mindset often clashes with societal expectations. To outsiders, their resistance to conventional milestones, like moving in quickly or getting married by a certain age, can appear as an unwillingness to commit. But for Sigmas, it's about making sure the commitment is real and lasting, not driven by external pressures. They'd rather take their time finding something meaningful than rush into something that doesn't feel right. Ultimately, Sigmas don't avoid commitment, they honor it, even if that means taking a longer or lonelier path. ###8. Mysterious to a fault? Sigmas are often described as mysterious, but not for the reasons people typically assume. It's not about playing games, creating a facade, or deliberately keeping others in the dark. The truth is, Sigmas simply prioritize their own journey over the need to constantly explain themselves. They focus so intensely on their goals, values, and personal growth that they don't feel the need to share every thought or decision with others. This quiet, intentional approach to life can make others feel uneasy or left out. To the outside world, this may come off as secrecy, but for Sigmas, it's about conserving their energy and staying aligned with what truly matters. They don't overshare or seek validation, which can confuse people accustomed to constant updates or public displays of progress. This lack of transparency is often misinterpreted as arrogance, as if Sigmas think they're too good to let others in. But it's not arrogance, it's a carefully maintained boundary. What people fail to see is that this sense of mystery isn't about anyone else. It's not a calculated move to appear enigmatic or unapproachable. It's simply the byproduct of living life on their own terms, free from the need to conform or be understood. Sigmas don't seek attention or approval. They're content in their own company and at their own pace. This unsettles those who are used to more predictable, open personalities. The world tends to judge what it doesn't understand, and for Sigmas, being misunderstood is often the price of authenticity. But this so-called mystery isn't a weakness. It's a strength. It's a reminder that true confidence doesn't need to be loud. Those who matter will respect it, and those who don't will be left guessing. Interactions are often labeled as socially awkward or even flawed. This judgment arises from misunderstanding, not reality. Sigmas don't avoid people because they're incapable of socializing. They simply choose not to engage in interactions that lack depth or meaning. To the average person, this behavior can seem off-putting in a world that thrives on small talk, groupthink, and endless surface-level exchanges. A Sigma's quiet restraint is frequently misinterpreted as discomfort or inability, but the truth is quite the opposite. Sigmas are more than capable of navigating social situations, they just choose not to perform. They see no value in pretending to enjoy conversations that feel forced or insincere, so they don't. This refusal to conform to extroverted norms often makes others uncomfortable. People expect a certain level of social interaction to fit in, and when Sigmas opt out, it disrupts the status quo. Their absence from unnecessary socializing is frequently mistaken for loneliness or aloofness, as if a Sigma's social life is lacking. But Sigmas don't seek the validation that comes from blending in. For them, authenticity is the highest priority. To outsiders, this may make them appear isolated or detached, but in reality, Sigmas are simply selective. They view their energy as a limited resource and are deliberate about where they spend it. For Sigmas, socializing isn't about quantity, but quality. They don't need to be liked by everyone or seek approval from all. Instead, they cultivate deep, meaningful connections with the few who truly matter, leaving the rest of the world to wonder and judge. Sigmas are often seen as unpredictable rebels, but this label reflects more about society's discomfort with individuality than it does about them. They don't wake up every day with the intent to break rules or challenge authority. What sets them apart is their refusal to blindly accept norms, traditions, or systems that don't align with their values. To the outside world, this resistance to following the script may feel like rebellion, but for Sigmas, it's simply living authentically. Their independence disrupts the flow of conventional thinking in workplaces, social circles, and even relationships. Sigmas don't fit into predefined roles or hierarchies, and they aren't defiant just for the sake of it. They simply see no reason to follow rules that don't make sense or serve a meaningful purpose. Their decisions are guided by logic and self-awareness, not a desire to stir things up. But because they don't seek permission to live differently, they're often seen as unpredictable, even threatening to the status quo. This unpredictability unsettles others. It's hard to control or predict someone who doesn't rely on external validation. For Sigmas, the goal isn't to prove anyone wrong or to stand out for attention. It's about building a life that aligns with their values. This self-driven approach frequently puts them at odds with those who find comfort in conformity, making Sigmas appear rebellious. But in truth, they're simply committed to forging their own path. If that means challenging outdated systems or questioning authority, so be it. Their actions come from a place of inner clarity, not chaos. Sigmas aren't wild cards. They're calculated, deliberate, and unwavering in their pursuit of a life that feels authentic to them, even if the world misjudges their intentions. In conclusion, the way the outside world views and judges Sigmas is often a reflection of its discomfort with individuals who choose a different path. Sigmas don't fit neatly into society's expectations, and that's what makes them misunderstood. Whether it's their independence, blunt honesty, or quiet ambition, people struggle to understand how someone can move through life so confidently without constantly seeking approval or following the crowd. But being a Sigma isn't about rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's about living with authenticity. It's about rejecting society's shallow norms and forging your own way with conviction. So, if you've ever felt like an outsider, misunderstood, or judged, know that your path is one that only a few will truly understand. Your ability to prioritize what truly matters and to remain steadfast in your values is a strength, not a flaw. While others may judge you for not conforming, that's precisely why you stand out. You are the exception to the rule, forging ahead unapologetically because you know that the only path worth walking is your own. Keep embracing who you are, for that is what makes you unstoppable.